Are you ready to live a heart-led, balanced life grounded in spirit and nature's wisdom? To step into your full power and potential? Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Olivia Ashley, a mother of 3 and a holistic wellness advocate on a mission to expand, inspire, and create a better world. Live Wildly is a community of women and mothers uplifting each other and shining our hearts to the world. Join us to remove limiting beliefs, enhance your intuition, and uncover what makes you thrive. Together, we will dive deep into holistic, earth-based, and spiritual topics while also exploring a variety of subjects to inspire and inform. Subscribe now and be a part of our journey towards living our most authentic, full lives. Welcome. I am so happy you are here. Hello, friends, new and old. It's Olivia here. And if you're new here, I welcome you to this podcast, to this space. And if you've been here a while, welcome back. I'm so happy that you found your way here. This podcast is really for the seekers who are looking to have a joyful, inspired, daring life and supporting ourselves through the ups and downs, the challenges, the beauty, and create a container of curiosity to learn from one another, to share stories and be of support as we navigate the wild, wild world out there and really find home within ourselves, find truth within ourselves and express that. So, like I said, welcome. I'm so grateful that you are here showing up for yourself, doing the work, because I think that's all we can do in this life. And this episode is the last of a 3-part series with Angela Husney. Angela is a Reiki Master, intuitive healer, and psychic medium, and happens to be one of my close friends. And we went through our Reiki Master training together and have just been in awe of one another, supporting each other through times of grief and loss and darkness and the ups and downs and the earth shaking that just happens to be life. And I feel like most of those in my sphere have gone through some really hard stuff these last few years. And we decided to put together this 3-part intro to energy series in effort to guide you along your path, because energy, while I think that word sometimes feels intangible, I really see it as the connection to ourself, to our energy body, to the awareness of what is going on within and without, and using that energy as kind of like a lighthouse or a flashlight to identify, to clear, to activate, to bring in new, fresh ideas, energy, and support ourselves in a way that I never knew was possible for most of my life. And when I started working and cultivating, cleansing, activating my energy, my world really shifted. I felt very much more in the driver's seat of my life. I felt I knew how to handle when I was facing anxiety, depression, struggling, and all the things that life seems to want to throw at you. And I was able to find more centeredness, grounding, support. So Angela and I put this together in hopes to help guide you through the energy body. What does that mean? What does that look like? And if you're new and you haven't heard the first 2 episodes, you can go back to episode 20 and 21, and then this will be episode 32, to recenter yourself, to find the space of what does this mean? How can I work with it? And this last episode is really the culmination of everything we've learned and shared with you all, which is around now strengthening and activating your energy to move forward with the awareness and the strength and the ability to be in control and be a part of your life in a whole way, and your body, and just support yourself. So I really hope that this is supportive and that you learn something from this. Energy is so beautiful and amazing. And I think once you understand and start to have that cultivation and connection to yourself, like the world is the limit, the sky is the limit of what your potential is. And you start to expand and realize there's so much around you. There's so much to connect to. There's so much life and beauty and abundance and wealth. And I think this really helps with manifestation. This helps with clarifying what you want in life, clarifying values, clarifying just who you are at your root. Once you can start to work with your energy and just have a relationship, it's very simple. I think that's the biggest biggest takeaway is a lot of this is simple. It takes time to learn. It takes time and attention and devotion to yourself to cultivate and become stronger and really find what works for you. And so go back to episode 20 and 21 if you're called to it and listen there too. I think you could just pick any of them and learn something and feel like you could just jump right in and take actionable steps away from it. So I hope you enjoy this last final episode in our 3-part energy series. And I'm going to kick you in the episode. So enjoy, share with a friend, let me know what you think. I so appreciate you being here. Hello, Angela. Welcome back to Live Wildly for your 4th time here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, me too, because we are finishing up our little mini series on energy. And if you've been here and listening, or maybe you haven't heard it yet, you can find the first 2 conversations that Angela and I had relative to energy in episode 20 and 22. And so this is really a culmination of Angela and my love of all things intuition and energy and connection. And her and I really just live so deeply within ourselves and our bodies and just want to live our best lives and feel good. And we are also mediums. And so we both just pick up on energy constantly. We easily tap in. And so this is a really good conversation for anyone, but especially those who might feel highly sensitive to what's going on around them, have intuitive gifts, and or just an interest in enhancing these. So to throw us back and catch us up, in the first episode that Angela and I did, it was about connecting and grounding. So we covered the basics of energy, what our energy body is, why we should know about it and work with it, and then especially how to start grounding. Grounding is such a key piece, especially for those who, again, are highly sensitive, because we often and easily have the tendency to just poof out of our body a little bit to just feel more safe and grounded. And so it helps us just get back into ourselves and be fully present. And then our second episode was all around clearing and activating with our energy. So we talked more in depth about connecting to the energy, what types of things we could maybe use and connect with, how we can clear and cleanse our energy for the benefits. And now that brings us to today. So bringing all of those themes back together, there's probably a bit that we'll cover again, but more focusing about energetic strengthening, maybe more energetic activation, boundaries, a little bit of protection, and dive into why this is even important, why we need to have some awareness around this, and how this really enhances our intuition, enhances our well-being, and lets us live really in this connected space of life. That is really, I think, what we as a society have lost, is this massive disconnection from ourselves, from our hearts, from our knowing, from our connection to the world around us and the different dimensions and beings and past ones around us that are always there, but we often don't understand, or we have experiences that just really throw us and make us question everything. So that is somewhat of our focus today. And I want to start by talking about getting really clear around why this conversation is important. Yes, I just stated a little bit of why I think it is, but specifically, why is women's intuition and connection so important and vital for us to be having this conversation about, to be understanding and learning from? So, Angela, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, there's so many thoughts around this, right? I think we start with, once again, feeling in our bodies. What do we feel? And acknowledging that, because a lot of times we're like, oh, it's nothing. How many times have you heard, yeah, I'm fine? I think that us acknowledging what we're feeling and being able to share that in an environment that people are accepting, where I can talk to you about, like, oh, I feel this energy around me. I am unable to disconnect or disengage with it. And actually having people understand that that is a true feeling and something that you intuitively feel. And really connecting with our bodies and allowing us that space to feel that is so important at this time.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I think I will add on to something that we were talking about just before this of just us as women have been ostracized for so long in our history, in our experience, in our voice, in our rights. And intuition is truly core to a lot of what has been villainized and taken away for religion to come in, for other practices to come in and say, no, this is the way we do it now because we are innovative and we're in the industrious time. And that male grasp has kind of taken over where it has so much to offer. And I don't want to discount that. And yet I think because of that, there's been, I mean, I think of like the Irish and the Scottish and just all as we saw, the pagans who just had everything taken away, their way of life and their connection and their understanding and how they lived. And we've had to do so much work as women to gain a voice, to gain rights, to say we are valid and our bodies are different, and yet we are so strong and so powerful. And that intuition and that connection is that core piece. I almost think that that is our true gift as women, and men obviously have it too, but we have it in a different way. And so I think this conversation feels important to me because of the times we're facing, of the things that I feel we're being prepared for, the changes we're feeling, the shifts in the earth that we're seeing. We are really having to come together and strengthen ourselves. And so that inner truth and knowing when so much outside of us can feel messy or confusing, what is true and where is my place in this? I think we can really uncover when we have that deep connection to ourselves and to our life and the world around us to say, I can see my truth no matter what is in front of me. It really allows that compass. And so I want to start there to just kind of set the scene because a lot of this might feel kind of out there or just things like, oh, like that's so simple, but it really is simple. I think our intuition is simple and that connection can be simple, but it's simple when you understand it and you have the right tools to help yourself with it. So, with that, I want to kick us to what is going on energetically in our day to day that's affecting us, that makes us need to strengthen and set boundaries and be connecting and grounding and doing all the things that we do each day.
Right. So, what just came through also is our electronics. We are talking via Zoom, we're talking through technology, we're texting, we're not having the connection as our ancestors did because of technology, which is amazing, right? We're able to have this podcast and share all this information. But I think that a lot of negativity, disassociation, things can come through that we don't even understand or know it's there. For example, when you're in a coffee shop and you're speaking to somebody on Zoom, you're still getting that energy of people around you and around them coming through. So being observant of who is around you and the electronics that are around you. And for some reason, my smartwatch keeps is popping up. So just knowing that we're carrying that around, your phone might be down, but if you have a smartwatch or something, those energies are still coming through. And you just want to be able to strengthen your own so that they won't impact your energy. I know that we've talked about it or I've mentioned it, like even being at a grocery store, if you're walking down the aisle and say there's a child acting up and the mom's all disheveled and you can just tell that the mom is at her wit's end and you walk by, you can pick up on that energy. And then that can kind of throw you off as well without even knowing that you're picking it up. So if we strengthen our own, if we put this barrier around us like a protection, it will help us stay within ourselves, keep our own energy clean. And, if that, once we can be embodied on ourselves, we are more apt to be able to go help that mother, give her some support, even, or some, a smile to reassure her that, yes, I've been there. I know how that feels. I'm really feeling for you. And she can feel that love coming through instead of just walking by and just ignoring it, per se. So I think that that is, it's just important that when we're going through life, just wherever we're at, we need to be cognizant of who's around us and what's around us and what we're allowing into our own energy.
Oh, that was really helpful and gave so many good examples. And what came through too was just as much as first, it's just like that awareness piece, like, oh, wow, a lot of these different things give off different energies, even tables, pictures, right? And noticing too that some of these will raise your frequency, raise your energy, and be like, oh, I feel better. I want to come back to this place. Like, I think of like going to a yoga class and like you're all there and you kind of build that collective energy, or I'm looking at the photo behind me of this print of a sunflower that just lightens my heart. But then, like, so looking and starting to notice those things that might be dragging or affecting your energy kind of negatively, maybe the neutral things that you don't really even notice, but are still harnessing some type of frequency. Everything is frequency. So you're going to have the lower, you're going to have the more medium of like, okay, this is fine. It's not really adding or taking. And then you're going to have the ones that heighten and enhance your frequency. And we all have that natural frequency that we're at. I can't off the top of my head remember what a human's main frequency is, but we also have, right, Earth's frequency, the Schumann resonance. So there's so many layers, and frequency is a core piece of our being. So I think when we say energy, it might be more helpful to however you need to understand it, because I think energy, it's imaginary to me. It's a feeling sense. You can experience it a little bit, but maybe frequency might help you understand that space of where you're sitting and how things can affect you, because everything has its own. So I wanted to state that because that's what came up too while you were speaking. And I also love the thing around like when you see other people, even your voice, your words that you said, like someone struggling, a mother in the grocery store, like saying just, hey, you're doing a good job, or wow, you're so radiant today. Like being mindful of where we're putting our energy, how we're affecting others. Because as much as others are just kind of can bathe over us and we don't always have a choice to accept it or not, depending on the situation, like an airport, holy moly, that's overwhelming. And that's what we're going to talk about. Just like that's why we need to strengthen and protect and boundaries so we can move through those situations with better strength and clarity and come out the other side and go, okay, I'm not as riled and all over the place from it. But knowing how you're feeling, because there's so many ways you can look at it, whether it's frequency, what you take, what you give, and what you give. So we always have the choice to check in, to decide how we show up, what energy that we give. But that starts with that connection to ourselves. That starts with how we take care of ourselves. And from there, is there anything you want to add on that thread?
I'm just seeing that what's coming through is the ripple effect. Once again, it really feels like giving out positive emotional support to other women. It keeps coming up, like it's calling to talk about this. And I think it's really important that, not like you said, not just receiving, but really giving out. So some positive reassurance, the smiles, and to other women. I feel that that's women right now are having a hard time navigating where they are and what life is, and kids. And it feels like they, at this moment in time, that they really need some more reassurance and some womanhood and some smiles and accolades could really go a long way right now for women in general. And so I'm feeling really called to, all of us women need to do that more often for each other.
Yes, I love that. Just how do we pour into each other, knowing that start with yourself, right? Pour into yourself. But then when you pour into others, like it comes back around and it brightens your days and it brightens them. And really, just from the point of a lot of us just want to feel good. And yet, a lot of us are drowning or we're moving through hard things and challenges. Or I know as myself, as a mom, as a work from home mom, and having kids at home, and just I bear the burden of the day to days. And as much as like, I feel like 9 out of 10 times I can do so with a smile on my face, but that 10th time that I do it and I'm tired and I didn't sleep well and no one cares and everyone's yelling at me, I'm done. Like, I'm like, why do we do this? This is not fun anymore. I don't want to do it. And it's like just even having others that can be like, I see you. This is hard. You're doing a really good job. You're enough. I mean, if my husband looked at me and just said, hey, you did an awesome job today. Like, oh, swoon, right? But I think we lose that. We lose that whether it's in our long-term relationships, even in our friendships. I think we're getting more apt to do that for our friends. But for those that, gosh, first off, that are our partners, I think being
Yes.
mindful because that's where we, if you've been in a long-term relationship, you know it's easy, you get comfortable, you lose that spark a little bit, but it's a choice. I keep thinking about coworkers and neighbors. Like, I've really loved even baking loaves of bread, like infusing it with my love, and just like, I hope you really enjoy it and sharing that. So it doesn't always have to be like at an energetic level, but noting that everything is energy. So what you do and what you choose and what you don't do, what you don't choose has those effects. And so what's your love language, and what are those acts of service that you can really just do naturally without any extra energy, right, to give away, but knowing like when you do that, you feel better and things feel better. So I think let's continue to talk about what are simple ways that we can begin to strengthen, fortify, protect our energy each day. I immediately off the bat think like of affirmations, very simple. I am strong. My energy is clear. I am abundant, right? Anything you want. Another one that came up for me was visualization. I think for me, that's my easiest way to fortify and strengthen energy is just visualizing in my mind's eye, a cleansing and clearing, or going to some space. Like if I'm stuck at my desk all day, imagining I'm in nature, because your brain does not know you're not actually wherever you put yourself. I think it's so cool, the science behind that of how it can really affect you. But what else is there, and what would you want to share?
So, I mean, those are obviously amazing ideas. Once again, I'm very open today. So there's a lot of visualization coming through today. So being grounded, feeling connected to earth, like the visualization, audio, those are all very powerful ways of protecting yourself. And I personally, I am big on visualizing myself encircled with roses. I just love roses. They remind me of my mom, and they're just such a powerful, strong flower for me. So, I visualize the rosa all the way around me, above my head, below my feet. And I really feel like that gives me the ability to be in an environment that maybe the energy isn't as good, but that energy is going into the flower, whereas I myself, I'm still strengthened and I can still move through the day without being affected.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. Those are really helpful ones. I think when I think of strengthening and fortifying, I think it's really important to start your day doing something. Again, doing just maybe a couple deep breaths, maybe you journal, maybe you just even pull a card to be like, what's the theme or the energy I'm working with right now? Saying a prayer. I think prayer is so powerful. And I used to really, I will be completely candid, shy away from it because I had so many ties to religion and wanting to buck the system. And I was like, no way. Prayer, when you really understand it and when it's from your heart, I think can fix a lot of things and really help support when it's like an affirmation. It's like that connection to the universe and something bigger. And then I'm trying to think of in my day to day, in the shuffle, in the chaos, I think something else that can really help is music. Deciding what music you put on. What do you want to listen to in the radio? Your kids are having a cranky morning. throw on some fun interactive music, kids music or your own, and just start singing or dancing and ways to shift. And while you're like, how is that helping me? It is. It's again that frequency shifter and that connection of wherever you're at, it will help you shift into something a little bit different. And so you get to kind of decide where that is. And I think two blessings of your food, gratitude practices. So those are two different things, like blessings to your water, to your life. Just thank you before you ingest things. And I always forget that. So I like when it comes back up and I'm like, oh yes, the simple things. When you put makeup on your face, right? Loving intentions. And then the gratitude practices of what's one thing you did well today? Like I think about the end of the night, just getting back in that habit of giving yourself grace and recognizing like we're doing amazing things. You're doing so awesome. I think all of that builds that well of energy and that it kind of waters your garden. If we could imagine like your energy being a garden and you need to pour into it. Have you gotten sunshine? Did you rest when it was dark? Did you, right, get the nutrients that you needed to just take care of yourself? And sometimes that's ebbs and flows. And I definitely have seen like we go through that whole cycle of life within this life many times, from blooming to decaying to replanting. So those are more that I thought of as well. Did anything else come up while I was talking?
Yeah, so I really like the analogy of the, blooming and the dirt and the cultivating. And I think that goes back to, pouring into yourself, that cultivation of daily practice. Also having like things that really could raise your vibration is colors, a lot of colors. Like, what are you wearing? The colors around your house. What does it feel like? If you look at something, going back to that intuition, if you look at something yellow, like the beautiful picture behind you, like, what does that make you feel like? And then if you see something red, what does that make you feel like? And really putting those colors that raise your vibration and make you feel comfortable and confident, having those around you also, I think, is very important.
I love that. That's such a good reminder. The colors are so powerful. When I was first doing intuitive work, the message I would always hear was like, read the rainbow, as in colors are massive. Light is massive. The frequency that light gives. And I think a lot of healing modalities are going to start learning how powerful light is, but that's color too at its essence. It's light and color. And something I really advocate for is, what are those colors you somewhat avoid that kind of make you go, oh, I'm a little uncomfortable with that one? I almost think you need that more. And I state that because orange for the longest time rubbed me wrong. And I was like, I do not like you. And then this last year, I was like, I need some orange as I was doing womb work. And we ended up painting all of our insides of our windows is really funny. I think it was called like Halloween orange colored. Like it looks fine, but like we needed it. I knew our soul needed that in our space. And I think it just livens it up. Like have fun with it too. I think some of us can feel so scared to be colorful, to stand out, to show up in the ways that
So,
those colors can activate in us. And I say, just go for it. Be who you need. But have that balance. If you're only wearing one or two colors, notice, because I noticed that too. I was like, oh, definitely a blue and a pink girl for a long time. And then I slowly was like, oh, I'm definitely missing that range. So it's fun and it really does affect you, good or bad. So that was a great reminder, Angela. And as we continue this conversation, we're going to start talking about more of the realms around us. But I think the first one that comes to mind around boundaries and strengthening our energetic system, and I think specifically around building that connection to understand and help us just be stronger in ourselves, is with animals. I have such an admiration, I know you do too, of animals and how they influence our energy. And so I want to start off maybe talking about just animals in general, not specific to pets yet, but how can we kind of interact with them? How can they influence our energy? And what is there that we should know about?
So, interestingly enough, I'm definitely attuned to animals. And what I do is when I see a hawk in the sky, like I mentally talk with it, I ask it to come close. And you would be surprised at how many times it does come close. So, I personally think that like just talking to the animals and like putting that energy out there that you want to communicate with them and just listening, just being quiet and listening once again. I think that our there's so much going on in the world. We don't take the moment to have that quiet time in nature and to listen to the birds and actually pay attention to what's happening, because I fully admit, like, I'll take my walks and I have my podcast on or I'm listening to something, and then when I realize what I'm doing and really take a moment to step back, stand there in the sun, and like envision what animals are around me, I then take in who is around me. Why is these hawks keep coming? It's not just because of the environment or because that's where I live. I think that they're presenting themselves because they have messages and that we should listen to them. We have this on our corner, I call it the bunny condos, because we have lots of bunnies over there. But I do take a moment to value them, appreciate them, and ask for their guidance as well as I'm walking past the bunny condo. And just, I think that that's, once again, spending the time to connect with them energetically is very important.
Yes, I loved all those examples. And I too am just, I feel that deep reverence, that deep connection, that rootedness that it brings me when I see an animal and I take a moment to connect, to feel. Also, in it, you get such the spectrum. I feel that way when I see a dead animal on the side of the road, that the chaos that we create because of the systems that we've set up, the pollution that we've had is so sad. And so I think you do get both sides of it, and yet it's not something we should be turning off. We should understand and look to support ourselves, support our natural systems, and then invite, like I really truly in the same way of animals, yes, are out there living their own life and have these whole experience, which is so crazy. But when I come in face to face, I take that as more of a reason or a message or an understanding. And I have had wild encounters from so many things, but I think some of often it's this reminder of the power of nature, the power of animals, that they represent such bigger things here in this world. And then just kind of our place in this world. I think oftentimes I think of animal encounters as jarring because I'm not paying attention. I'm like keep thinking of walking my son in the stroller, walking our dog one morning, and it's 6:30 a.m. And it's a pretty open walk. And then my little son goes, and I look over and there's this massive coyote, just, I mean, huge, looked like a wolf running within 10 feet of us. I mean, didn't even probably looked at us peripherally, but I was like, whoa, I didn't even see him. He could have just decided we were his meal. I mean, obviously, I don't think they typically do that, but it really hit me. It kind of hits you sometimes. And I think it's just this reminder in the most simple way of, wow, I am so disconnected. I go live in this house and I come out to do my things and then I go back in that house, and I think we lose a lot. We lose our intuition. We lose that broader connection with our earth, what's happening with our earth. I think of weather patterns or things that come, earthquakes, right? The canary in the coal mine, that they're so apt and so connected that they exist, and they exist like birds fly on the magnetic field and things like that. And we're so not aware of that. We don't, I'm sure some of us feel it and have ramifications of it, but I think it's an invitation to become more aware, become more present. And when you do that and you invite those encounters, life becomes more magical. I feel more positive and excited or connected of like, there's a reason we're here. There's a reason that we're on this journey and having these experiences. And I know I feel like that's so out there and spiritual and woo-woo in a way, but I love it. I think there's so much power in the animals and in the things that come forward. Anything else? Like otherwise, I want to talk a bit about pets and maybe your take on them, like what role they can kind of play in our life, how they can support us with our energy, and even the stance of often we hear pets as familiars, right? We choose them, they choose us. Yes. What's your take on that?
So I definitely believe that. I feel that they are here to help guide us, nurture us, be within our energy because you figure your pet is very close to you. They're touching you, they're kissing you, they're relying on you, and they want to be with you. And I feel that it's really them within your energy. If they're going back, like if they're feeling bad or if they're sick, that you're nurturing and helping them. That energy exchange is very prominent, right? And I feel that they can once again raise your energy, in that frequency, being around them. I also think that they are very intuitive, right? They know when you're not feeling well or maybe you're off or you're having a bad day, and they just want to be there to support you. And wouldn't that be great if all humans were like that? Would they just want to be here to support you and love and be loved and nurture you? So, and going back to the familiars, I think that once again, I think all animals are brought into your life at a certain time to help guide you and nurture you. Unfortunately, they don't last as long, so it's very sad. The pets are gone, but being able to really cherish that time that you do have them, I think is important. And really taking once again, I'm back to those moments of looking at them and seeing their energy around them. Right now, I have one of my dogs here, and if I tune in, I can see the energies. And I think that it's just really interesting the different energies that animals can carry with them. And I think anybody can do it. Just take some time and be passionate about your animals, and you definitely can see their colors and what they represent.
Yes, isn't that the truth? And it's so interesting when you are able to connect. And I always love how I can connect with like animals and even plants in the sense of I'll just hear it. Like I'll just hear food, water, outside. Like they
Yeah.
just like they threw it at me. And as I'm walking by, I'm like, oh, okay, you need this. Let me help you. And so they're so perceptive and they're watching us. And sometimes we don't get to be as perceptive towards them. But I think they can really help us let go of some of those burdens we carry, let go of some of those worries. They're so in their heart space, and their frequency is just love and cherishing and compassion. And we can learn so much from our animals. And so, having them in your household, around your kids, no matter what type, whatever lifts you up and you want to have a connection with, I think can just really offset hardships, offset struggles. And I've been so grateful for what I've learned through my animals, and then also something I learned too from an animal medium and connector is it was really fascinating that most animals often take on personalities and even health issues of their humans, of who they're with. And so noticing what your animal's moving through, how are they feeling, that oftentimes, not always, but it can often be a reflection of what you are moving through because they try to siphon and take on. Like they're so deeply entrenched in our energy and in our soul path, is what it feels like, that they're here to try to kind of reflect, be a mirror for us to learn, to understand, and be like, hey, this isn't working and I'm having this. Your lifestyle is probably very similar. So being able to also use them as teachers in the various ways and understanding that the role they play both here and once they passed on. And when you can connect to that energy, there's so much to learn and glean. And I think they're just really great. Yeah, back to that teachers and helpers of resetting and grounding our energy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that, how the mirror of like how you're feeling and how they're feeling. I like that analogy of that mirror, because it definitely, once again, it's that energy exchange. You're exchanging energy with the animal, and of course, you could see how that animal can pull that energy from you and feel that same exact way. So I just love that analogy of how you represented that.
Thank you. Yes, it made so much sense as I was talking about it. And I want us to go even deeper to now some more of the out there topics around why this is important to have strong energy, boundaries, because there is much in these unseen realms that we can start to interact with, both in really amazing ways, supportive ways, strengthening ways, but then also ones that can be draining or pulling on you or frightening you, that fear aspect. I think it just depends on where your frequency is at. And anyone I think can have anywhere around the spectrum, but when you are strong and intentional and have those boundaries, you get the opportunity to have many more uplifting and supportive. And then when you have some of the harder, which cue my spooky stories episode, I think episode 17, you learn how to dance in that realm and kind of go, oh, that's not mine. I do not like you in my space. Goodbye. So let's start to talk about kind of what's going on around us that we need to know about, especially for those who might not be aware of all of these things or might not have had experiences to the level you and I have, and what type of beings there are that we can interact with.
Yes. So I have to say that that spooky story episode was one of my favorites. Also, just jumping right in. So, I connect a lot to people that have passed on, and that energy continues to be here. And as we talked earlier, like I could see there's a lot of energy within the ground. And, because we always think out there like space, but it's also underneath us. So that's just something that happens to be coming up right now, that I'm seeing a lot of turmoil in the ground, and being able to understand that it's also from there, not just out in the sky, but and the different realms, because I've definitely have worked with more of the negative energy. But really, you're sovereign, and you can stop anybody from being around you. You could just say that you don't want their energy to be around you or in your home or in your space, and they will leave. So, and for some reason, this keep getting a somebody knocking at the door, like we talked about earlier today, about really cleansing houses, like having your energy cleanse of your house because of the earth that we're living on, and just being able to bless that, and valuing what we have is very important, and that we don't have to invite or allow others into our space, if that makes sense.
Yes. And okay, so I love that you brought that back to the earth because I think that's where we need to take it more so than like the aliens and the fairies and right, like the demonic ones. Like there's so many different things, the past loved ones, but I think you're right that you hit something that I think is very poignant because we're in this earth sphere. And I think there is a lot that wants to be heard and understood around, like you said, those who are past, those energies underground, those that get stuck to physical items, to our houses. All of that is going to really affect us within this sphere. And so I think let's bring it to our topic for today of really wanting to strengthen, to feel good in ourselves. And I think you've been bringing up like the past ones are really here to bring up some information. They want to be heard, but then also there's all this stagnancy, is what I feel like in houses. So, how do we start to grapple and have a practice where we can kind of listen to the earth, listen to the beings that come before us, listen to what it's trying to share with us, but then also reclaim sovereignty and power and connect and clear and cleanse. I don't know if there was a question there, but that's what I feel like we need to talk more about this.
Mhm. And I think that, the crystals, the, sage and all those things, like you put the power into it and allow that to clear the energy because you figure the energy, even because we all live in neighborhoods, or a lot of us live in neighborhoods. So the energy is all around us. They're driving up and down the road. You pull in energy that doesn't really belong to us. So once again, blessing the energy and the ground that we live on, the house that we live in, our cars, our being of being around what objects are around us also carry the energy that you mentioned earlier. They carry energy. Do you have right now I have, a lot of my mom's old furniture. What does that energy cover and carry with it? And just enjoying it, but also blessing it and then cleaning it so that our area that we live in is, and it's interesting, blessed, and you pray. I've never been into prayer as well. I grew up without religion. So it was always a weird thought to me, but prayer. But it's been coming up more and more recently, and I think that I'm going to value it, and I talk about it, and I think prayer is important in this, also in the energy realm of understanding that we want to bless it, enjoy it, and pray for it as well, and those who have passed.
Yes, it reminds me of, again, kind of kicking it back to when we were deeply connected to the earth, to nature, to the elements, to ourselves. There's this reverence for life, for the gifts, knowing that it wasn't always going to be there. Again, I think with the way that we consume and food's always at the grocery store. And so we have that expectation and it becomes kind of, I'm like the word like lackluster. It just has kind of lost its gift. It's like, whoa, this realization. And it keeps making me think of the books Braiding Sweetgrass. I think this is where a lot of my feelings towards strengthening is the author really talked about her indigenous ways, but kind of grasping, walking both worlds of they had lost it somewhat, but her parents every morning would make coffee and go outside and say a prayer and a blessing and pour coffee onto the earth as like, I will offer this first and then I will consume. And how beautiful is that? I think that just sat with me of I've never witnessed anything like that. And yet I've always felt that that was so important. And I think this all culminates to creating this life that is like full circle. Right now, I feel like we're a broken infinity cycle. Like we just don't. We kind of do one part of it or one part of the other. But as we begin to navigate in these realms of intuition and blessings and prayer and connection and reverence and respect, that it starts to let that energy flow. We start to become much more than just ourselves in this small life that we're living. To me, it brings hope. To me, it brings gratitude and support. And then it's that invitation, maybe that the wind whips and you get a message and the sun shines and you feel something. That is how I think I want to live more of. That fuels me. And I think strengthens my ability to move forward and charge forward in the face of obstacles or challenge. I want to reach out and help a neighbor, reach out and help a friend. And so I think that's where that brings me everything that you were speaking to. And like our homes are a being. I think it takes me back to our Reiki lessons, Angela. Of some of the first things we learned was clearing our house and activating and setting strong, loving intentions and energy in our homes. Our homes are our heart, but we are so apt to, we have to move, we have to go beyond with our day. And so our house has kind of become this crap ground of like, we're just going to chuck all our shit there and we're going to pile it and we're not going to worry about it. And so, how do we start to take more intentional moments to love it, to Palo Santo it, to play some music in it, right? Just like very basic things that really affect us.
And getting rid of things that don't fill us up. It is something to be said of getting rid of things that no longer serve you, no longer bring you joy, and having that and clearing that space and having more space.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit maybe about some tools we can use, or maybe you and I like to use to help strengthen and fortify ourselves. Let's start with you and then I'll add on from there. So, what are some tools that you use to help move your energy, clear your energy, strengthen yourself? How do you feel better?
I definitely, well, once again, I'm into visualization. I do a lot of grounding. I have crystals, definitely use crystals a lot as a a tool per se to keep my energy flowing and connected. I also have, I was just thinking like outside, I definitely have a path and I have certain rocks and I have different things set up throughout the yard that helps me stay grounded and that energy like in a kind of like a protection as well as around my the perimeter of my house. As I had stated, earlier, like we live so close to each other that energy is bound to come over and the neighbors. But I really feel that I put up stones. Rocks is a big tool that I use, and stones and crystals. But once again, going back to stones is something that I'm really feeling getting called that people need to start thinking about. Like if you're on a walk and you see a stone and you pick it up, like really feeling it and bringing it to your house, to your home, and really giving it some energy and love, and it will protect you as well.
Yes, I'm right there with you. Our whole family, and especially myself, since I was a kid, was so drawn to crystals specifically, but rocks in general. I think they're alive, they have their own frequency. And while I'm not going to pretend to know the science behind it all, experientially trusting what you're drawn to, that helps fortify. And with crystals, I love to activate them. So hold them, learn them, clear it because like you don't know who held it, where it came from, invite it into your space, have a relationship with it. And like a base level, it's so simple, so easy, but just think it. And I would love for you to be here to just clear my space, put one under your pillow to help us sleep well, have good dreams. I definitely do this with my kids when they're struggling and or especially around nighttime to just bring that other frequency and anchor that intention into them. And we have them all over, and I have different ones for different things. Like when I'm podcasting, I am always holding this little rose quartz sphere because one, it calms me. It brings me to my heart, but I also can kind of play with it because as someone with ADHD who just struggles, it brings me to this moment and I can focus. So finding those that just call to you, and also not from the perspective of hoarding them. I also love to gift crystals as it feels right and it makes sense. I like to offer them to people. I lose them pretty often, and I trust, like, oh, you needed to go where you needed to be. But there's a lot that you can do with them and wearing them. So, back to those frequencies, getting some type of EMF pendant. There's the one I'm wearing currently is shungite, and it has been shown to protect and offset the EMFs that come in. Like it's just a powerhouse, and that's what it does. So I'm like, great, I'm going to start wearing that more. But finding the ones that speak to you. Also, pendulums, I feel are a really good tool to just anchor your energy once you've set your intention with them. They help get clarity if you're using them to ask questions. But even just when I do house clearings or try to get intuitive messages, just having it as a conduit, a channel to keep that energy open, clarify, has been really supportive for me. There's so much more with pendulums too. There's tons of charts you can get and ways you can use them. So note that that is a rabbit hole in itself. The other thing I was thinking about when I thought of energy was it brought me to elements. So I realized I was like, oh, I kind of just do this. Our house is full of plants. And so we're bringing in life, we're bringing in that new energy, that earth. Like I said, Palo Santo incense, we smoke. That feels so important right now. Back to that clearing, that cleansing of the space. Smoke just feels a powerhouse, even more so fire too. So having candles, I like non-toxic, really supportive, like start with beeswax, whatever essential oils, avoid some of those fragrances, but just being mindful of anything you're bringing into your space is going to add or take away. And so what is that bringing? It kind of makes me think of Marie Kondo. Does this bring
Yeah.
you joy or does this not? And being willing to part with things that don't. And then for the water elements, while I would love to bring in like a water fountain, I love just taking baths, right? Epsom salts, letting you ground. But I really think that fortifies your energy too, to just clear and connect and having that space to be submerged in water. So noticing the elements and what you're drawn to help fortify.
And then I don't know why, but I keep getting the opposite too, like getting rid of like scents that don't work for you. Don't hold on to
Yes.
that candle. Don't hold on to those things that don't smell correct to you or don't fill you up. Being able to get rid of those, pass it on somebody else if it's not something that the smell keeps coming up, like something about smell. And right now a smell could, you'd be loving it, but next month you might not. So just keeping that in mind, that you can move through different phases of what is supporting you and what's not supporting you, and those can change too. It's not always going to be the same thing. And as our environment changes, as our world, and the spring is coming, we're going to have a lot of scents and pollens and those kind of things coming about. And so in Colorado, we have the change of seasons, and that brings in a change of energy as well. So maybe if you're feeling stagnant with your winter colors, make sure to invite into spring colors so that energy continues to flow. And I think that you brought that up before, like the flow of your energy is so important, just so that you can keep moving and keep moving forward and not being stuck, and realizing that it's kind of like the change of seasons, the change of your life. There's going to be different times and different things that are going to enhance your energy, and embrace that and know that bringing that in is going to be good for you. And listening to that intuition, back to where we started, is using your intuition and understanding that you don't need to know why, but if you are being pulled to it, go with it.
That's so true. And that's such a big thing that I've learned. Whatever is coming up for you in this moment, there is a reason. And so start to pull on that thread and see what it is. And it's so simple just to say, how do I make this better? Or how can I help myself with whatever you're facing? And just see what comes forward and trust it. Sometimes you might not get anything, but then a friend comes forward and is like, hey, listen to this podcast. Hey, read that book. Or I went and saw someone about this. And da da da. I think we are often given the support we need in the moment that we need it. So just trying to listen a little bit more, trust a little bit more. And I think one of the last things I want to chat about is around energy and how I think there's a lot of things that can also be affecting us, whether it's like old relationships or even past life things that just settle into our energy. And I don't think always are affecting us. But again, back to the kind of like that flow, there are seasons where things come up or are really dragging us down. Or maybe we went to the airport and something has attached to us a little bit, whether it's whatever type of entity it is. We don't have to look too far into it. But starting to play with what's mine, what isn't mine, and also what is a simple practice that we could do to try to rectify some of these things, whether we know or are unaware of what it is that's really sitting in our energy. What is something that we could just blanket do that would help us remove anything, clarify whatever's coming forward, and letting us re-strengthen and step into sovereignty? Because that's the word I think I really want to stick on, is we are so powerful, strong, sovereign. That is our right. But sometimes things happen. And so, what would be a suggestion to kind of blanket help us move through some of these things?
So, like you said, like even just acknowledging that, yes, I need my energy cleansed and feeling that, setting up a bubble around you and visualizing the healing lights of grace are coming through the atmosphere, coming in and just cleansing everything that doesn't belong to you. And really, that's it. Like all you have to do is cleanse the energy and remove the energy that no longer serves me or is not here for my greater good. And really, it's that simple. We are so powerful. It is really just that simple to say that, envision that, and it's done.
Yes, thank you. That's a great reminder. And I will say, if you're still struggling, even when you do that, find a friend that sees this, gets this realm, ask them a question, seek some help, maybe an intuitive reading or just some guidance from someone else. Like there are so many resources out there, and I think it can be very inexpensive and or not any monetary amount to just get guidance or help in this realm, because it isn't hard. It's just starting to understand a little bit about what you're capable of and that you're a sovereign and that you get to really decide this in your life. But if you're struggling, definitely reach out and find whomever you're feeling most called to help. I mean, I'm like even acupuncture, massage, like just something else that can help shift you both physically and energetically, or maybe you just need some rest, like take a nap. Truthfully, I swear,
Yeah.
I think some of our issues is we're just so depleted. We're so tired. And so our energy field's like, oh, I'm just full of holes and I'm a mess because we haven't given ourselves the time. 5 minutes, like truthfully, 5 minutes can shift so much to just repair and reset and come back to ourselves. But I think we aren't taught this. So, reminding ourselves to be gentle with wherever we're at and noting that we sometimes need extra soothing and support, and that is all going to affect our overall well being and our frequency and our intuition. So, I think the last thing I want to ask is just, is there anything else you think we should chat about or that wants to come forward around this topic, or intuition, using and gaining strength for those listening?
So, what is coming through is more about children. And I think that women are very intuitive when it comes to their children and like seeing, oh, they're tired or they're cranky or they need to eat. But once again, turning that on themselves. Like, what is it that I'm needing to support myself so that I can be better, mother, friend, partner? And then also like just once again what's coming through is knowing that listening, it's like that gut, listening to it and honoring it. I don't think that we honor ourselves enough, and that the energy that's around that honoring and knowing that we are enough. For some reason that enough keeps coming up, and honoring ourselves and our energy and our intuition and valuing ourselves keeps circulating around this conversation. And I think it's very important for everybody listening to just take a moment and really give yourself some value.
Ooh, you're right. We see you, we feel you. You are enough. You are doing enough. You're doing amazing. And you are so important. And taking the time to take care of yourself, to love yourself, to exactly what you said, right? We will do this for our partners, for our children, for our friends, much more easily than we often do for ourselves. So if you can start to get in a practice of maybe looking in the mirror to start the day and going, what do I need today? What is a little off? Or what am I excited about? And how can I prioritize me for at least 10 minutes this day. And what would that look like? Hopefully at least an hour, but I get how the days go. But checking back in that I just like I'm looking at the cards that came forward and a lot of the energy, and it's just this like we are children of this cosmos, we are children of this earth, we are children of something much grander, and there's this intelligence that is deeply within us. And how do we nourish that connection? How do we nourish rest, take care of it? Because that at its essence, I think, is really a part of just this soul level mission of coming here to experience, to dance in all these realms, to have fun, but we lose sight of that higher meaning, that higher understanding. And so, can we zoom out sometimes out of our day-to-day struggles, our day-to-day worries, knowing that that's still going to be there, but we are something much grander and much greater. We have the spark of the universe literally within ourselves. And how beautiful and amazing is that? So you're worthy of love and cherishing and compassion and the attention to fortify your energy, fortify your intuition, find your community that can really honor you and see you. And if that's not something where you're at, what can you start to do to change it? Because that is where you hopefully can be operating from at some point, and what you are destined to kind of have, right? Doesn't always make everything easy, but it lets us feel stronger and more held within us, and our resiliency and that connection to that broader tapestry of life becomes much more seen.
Yes, definitely. I like that tapestry because that's what it all is.
Yes. Well, Angela, I think this was a great one. I'm so happy that we got together to complete this three-part series. I hope to all you listeners that this was supportive and just helps you start to think a little differently or show up in your days a little differently. And remember that keep it simple. Take care of yourself, love up on yourself, connect to everything around you. And when you start to do that, to make these little changes and shifts, that life can just feel a little bit more easeful or magical or welcoming. So that's really my intention here.
Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome, Angela. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Live Wildly. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an empowering story, insightful lesson, or transformative tip. Together, we can continue to challenge the status quo, enhance our intuition, and uncover what makes us come alive. To dive deeper into our community of changemakers and access exclusive content, head over to my Substack, Trust and Pixie Dust, and subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram at Wildly Olivia for inspiration and updates. Remember, we are the changemakers in this world. Keep shining your light and living wildly. Until next time, I'm Olivia Ashley, and I can't wait to connect with you again.